I'm Dara, 28, and my life changed forever on a family vacation in Colorado. My family thought it would be a funny prank to leave me at a gas station in Wyoming. Let's see if she can come back. They laughed as they drove away. But I never come back. It took 16 years for the family who abandoned me that day to finally find me. But by then, I was no longer the girl they'd thrown away. Before I tell you everything that happened, let me know where you're watching in the comments. And hit that subscribe button if you're ready to hear about how being left behind helped me finally find myself. Growing up in the Mitchell house was like stepping into a ring with a smile glued to your face, knowing every round would leave you bloodied. My parents, Cynthia and James, swore their brand of tough love was sculpting me into something stronger, but it was just cruelty wrapped in laughter. Sarcasm that sliced deep. Jokes that left scars and so-called teachable moments that taught me to trust no one. My brothers, Derek and Ryan, were their eager disciples, wielding the family's twisted humor like a weapon aimed straight at my heart. Every memory from that house has a shadow, a crack ready to split wide open. My 10th birthday, when they convinced me my friends had ditched me, leaving me sobbing in my room while they cackled, cake in hand. My prom night, when they sent my date to a non-existent address, their smirks burning hotter than my humiliation. Always the same refrain. Chill, Dara, it's just a joke. But those jokes built a prison around my soul. By 22, clutching a graphic design degree and a fragile dream of escape, I should have seen the trap coming. That gift of a family vacation to Colorado wasn't a celebration. It was a stage for their cruelest act yet. A betrayal so raw it still stings. One that left me stranded and fighting to survive. The Wyoming sun burned my skin, but I barely felt it. I stood rooted to the gravel lot, staring at the empty space where our SUV had been, willing it to flicker back into existence. It didn't. My heart slammed against my ribs as I circled the gas station, legs unsteady, eyes darting to every corner. Behind the building, down the side road, into the dusty car repair bay. Nothing. Just wind, silence, and the mocking hum of insects in the dry heat. They were gone. Really gone. I fumbled for my phone, hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. Dad. Voicemail. Mom. Voicemail. Derek. Blocked. Ryan. Blocked. Each unanswered call tightened the knot in my chest, a scream I couldn't release. This wasn't a prank, not a scare tactic they'd laugh off. This was calculated. A blade driven deep, twisted with intent. I sank onto the curb, the concrete searing through my jeans, and tried to breathe. My purse was all I had. Wallet, ID, debit card with maybe $200. $43 cash. Phone at 17%, no charger, no car, no suitcase. No one in the world knew where I was. I was a ghost in a town I couldn't even name. Time blurred. Shadows stretched across the pavement as the sun climbed. I kept glancing up, certain I'd see the SUV rolling back, their laughter spilling out. Gotcha, Dara. But the road stayed empty. My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. A photo of them in a diner, glasses raised, plates piled high. Caption. Wonder if Dara's found dinner yet? I stared at their grinning faces, their celebration of my pain, and something inside me cracked. The phone slipped from my hands, clattering to the ground. I don't know when the tears started, but they consumed me. Sobs racked my body, my stomach twisting, my throat raw. I buried my face in my sleeves, wiping snot and salt, unaware of the strangers passing by. Some curious, most indifferent. I was nothing to them, just a broken girl on a curb. But to my family, I was a punchline, a game. And they were winning. Joanne, the cashier, appeared, her voice soft but firm. Honey, you've been out here for hours. You okay? Her kindness was a lifeline, and I clung to it, spilling the truth in jagged fragments. How my family abandoned me, mocked me, blocked me. Her face hardened, eyes flashing with a fury I couldn't muster. They left you here? On purpose? I nodded, voice barely a whisper. They call it character building. She crouched beside me, her presence steadying. Got anyone you can call? A friend? I shook my head, the realization hitting like a fresh wound. My best friend was in California. My college connections? Faded. My family had spent years isolating me, whispering that no one else would ever care. And I'd believed them, swallowed their poison until it became my truth. Joanne led me inside, plugging my phone into a charger. It flickered to life at 10%. A new text from Dad. Learned your lesson yet? My fingers trembled as I typed, "What lesson?" His reply was instant, cold as steel. "You can't rely on anyone but yourself. Figure it out. Call us when you're back in Chicago." Before I could process it, another message from Mom. "This is for your own good, Dara. Self-reliance." The screen went black, and with it, something in me died. I wanted to scream, to hurl the phone across the room, to claw my way back to them and demand why. Why me? Why this? But a quieter voice, buried deep, whispered, "Enough." For the first time, it wasn't fear or shame. It was defiance. I was done begging for their love. Joanne called a friend, Margaret, a retired school teacher with a spare room. That night, I stood in Margaret's entryway, clutching a plastic bag of snacks, my only belongings. Margaret, silver-haired and calm, didn't flinch at my story. "Clean bed, extra toothbrush," she said. "That's enough for tonight." In her quiet Wyoming home, I lay in borrowed pajamas, staring at the ceiling. Tears came again, but they were different. Less despair, more resolve. I waited for my phone to buzz, for an apology, a crack in their cruelty. Silence. Morning brought another blow. Using Margaret's landline, I called my family. No answer. Then I called my Chicago apartment manager. My rent, unpaid. My parents had canceled their support. I had until month's end to clear out, or my things would be trashed. I hung up, numb, the ground dissolving beneath me. Joanne dropped off a charger and toiletries. Margaret offered to let me stay if I helped around her house. And in that moment, a terrifying truth settled in. I had nothing left. No home, no job, no family. But in that void, a spark flickered. Freedom. I walked into the Pinewood Diner and asked for a job. Dana, the manager, barely glanced up, shoving an application my way. The next day I was waitressing, hands raw, feet screaming, back aching. But when I pocketed my first tips, I felt it. A thread of power. I wasn't theirs anymore. At Margaret's bookstore, Pages and Poems, I dusted shelves and sorted inventory, earning a small wage and a rent-free room. I bought a notebook, sketching late into the night, reclaiming pieces of myself. I used the library computer to rebuild. New ID, updated resume, fresh email. I blocked every family number, severing their hold. But they didn't stop. Ryan's group text. Day 3 of Dara's wilderness adventure. Still in that shirt? Derek's email. Stop the drama. Come home. I deleted them, heart racing, refusing to let their venom back in. The dam broke on a Sunday, crying in the diner's stockroom. Lena, a waitress and single mom, found me. I told her everything. 22 years of cruelty poured out. She didn't flinch. "Dara, that's not family. That's abuse." Her words were a thunderclap, shattering the lies I'd carried. Not, "They mean well," not, "It's just their way." The truth, raw and undeniable. I didn't need their forgiveness. I didn't need their cage. For the first time, I saw a path forward. Not back to them, but towards something new. Something mine. Lena's words were a wildfire in my mind, burning through years of lies. That's not family. That's abuse. They echoed, relentless, splitting open a truth I'd been too terrified to face. It was as if she'd handed me a key to a door I'd spent my life pretending didn't exist. Now it was wide open, and the view was raw, jagged, undeniable. That night, I sat on Margaret's porch, her cat purring against my leg, a worn blanket draped over my knees. The Wyoming stars blazed brighter than anything I'd ever seen in Chicago. each one a pinprick of hope in the vast dark. I whispered to myself, voice shaking but certain, "You're not going back. You're done chasing love that was never yours to earn." In that quiet moment, something shifted deep inside me. For the first time, I made a choice that was mine alone. I was staying in Pine Ridge. Not forever, maybe, but long enough to find out who I was without their chains. The next morning, I borrowed Margaret's laptop, hands trembling with purpose. I emailed my old professors, asking for recommendation letters, keeping my story vague. "Unexpected circumstances," I wrote, guarding the truth like a wound. That story wasn't theirs to carry. But you're here, reading this, walking this road with me. So let me ask you, if your family abandoned you, left you stranded with nothing but a cruel laugh, what would you do? Would you forgive them? Could you ever go home? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm dying to know where you stand. In Pine Ridge, I threw myself into survival. Double shifts at the Pinewood Diner left me bone-tired, feet blistered, hands raw from carrying trays. On my days off, I worked at Margaret's bookstore, pages and poems, dusting shelves and soaking in the quiet. She let me paint the front windows with swirling designs for new releases, and passersby started to notice. I crafted a chalkboard sign. Local author night, first Friday, with tiny books sketched around the edges. It was small, but it was mine, a piece of myself I could hold on to. Then Margaret said something that stopped me cold. "You're good at this, Dara. Design, color, drawing people in without forcing it. Ever thought about doing this for others?" I brushed it off, laughing bitterly. Who'd hire me? I'm just the girl they left behind. But Margaret didn't smile. She fixed me with a steady gaze and said, "That's not who you are anymore." Her words landed like a spark on dry grass, igniting something I hadn't felt in years: possibility. That week, she introduced me to Gavin, a web developer with a quiet confidence and a knack for tech. He flipped through my portfolio, sketches, logos, posters from college, and nodded like he saw something I didn't. "I'm useless at design," he said, "but I know code. You bring the visuals, I'll handle the rest. Want to team up on some small business gigs?" It was a lifeline, fragile but real. The girl abandoned at a gas station was being offered a chance to build something new, to prove to herself she was more than their punchline. But just as I started to believe I could outrun my past, it slithered back, venomous and unyielding. One afternoon at the diner, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. I ignored it, heart pounding, but the voicemail notification glared at me. It was Dad. His voice was heavy, worn, but not remorseful. "It's been 2 months, Dara. You've made your point. Come home." Come home? As if I'd thrown a tantrum. As if they hadn't left me like trash on a Wyoming roadside. Rage surged, hot and sharp, but I didn't call back. I blocked the number, hands shaking, refusing to let him pull me back into their game. Days later, a letter arrived at the bookstore. No return address. Inside was a faded photo of me at 6, grinning on Dad's shoulders at a park, carefree in a way I couldn't remember. On the back, his handwriting. "Remember this? We used to be close." My stomach churned. This wasn't love. It was manipulation, a hook designed to reel me back into their control. I tore the photo in half, heart racing, and for the first time, I felt the weight of my own power. I didn't want their version of close anymore. That moment crystallized my resolve. I needed to build a life they couldn't touch, a future that was mine alone. So I poured myself into it. I sketched late into the night, designing logos for local shops. Gavin and I landed our first client, a bakery needing a website and branding. The work was small, but it was ours, and every step felt like a rebellion against the family that tried to break me. But the drama didn't end there. What came next wasn't just growth. It was a quiet, searing kind of revenge, one that would show them I didn't need their cage to thrive. I'll share that part soon, so stick with me. because this story's far from over. And if you've ever been gaslit, manipulated, or told your pain was just a joke, I see you. Leave a comment below. Share your story, your strength, your truth. Let's remind each other we're not alone in this fight. Rebuilding from nothing isn't a movie montage. It's not a triumphant sprint with swelling music. It's raw, gritty, a series of small, defiant steps, like scrubbing tables at the Pinewood Diner until your knuckles ache, or flipping Margaret's bookstore sign to open while the scent of burnt coffee clings to your skin. Every morning I woke before dawn in Margaret's spare room, the mattress sagging, the floor groaning, the window letting in a sliver of cold Wyoming air. It wasn't much, but it was a sanctuary. For the first time, I had a space that felt like mine. By 6, I was at the diner, slinging plates, dodging spills, smiling through exhaustion until 2. My 30-minute break was spent on a splintered bench out back, staring at pines swaying in the wind, my mind wrestling with the weight of starting over. Then I'd walk to pages and poems, helping Margaret sort books or sweep floors until the sun dipped low. It was grueling, body and soul. But that bone-deep tiredness, it was proof I was alive, proof I was more than the Mitchell's punching bag. In Pine Ridge, I wasn't the sensitive one or the joke. I was Dara, raw, unpolished, but free. Gavin and I started meeting weekly at the bookstore, sketching out plans over lukewarm coffee. He had connections, small businesses in nearby towns needing logos, flyers, websites they couldn't afford from big agencies. We were their lifeline, and they were mine. Our first project was for Nell, a soft-spoken woman who ran a candle shop. When I showed her the logo, a delicate flame curling around her shop's name, she clutched the paper to her chest, tears in her eyes. "This is me," she whispered. "You saw me." Her words cracked something open inside me. For years, my family had told me my art was a hobby, a waste. But here it was power. It was worth. That spark fueled me. I designed business cards on a free Canva template, pinning them to every bulletin board in town. Gavin and I tackled Margaret's bookstore next, spending late nights building a website with event listings, online orders, even a blog. When we launched it, Margaret stood behind me, her hand on my shoulder. "You did this, Dara," she said. We both cried. Quiet, healing tears. For the first time, I felt like I mattered. Then the local paper ran a piece on the bookstore, mentioning the young designer from Chicago who'd breathed new life into it. A few hundred words meant to celebrate. I should have known it would draw blood. One afternoon, I found an envelope taped to Margaret's door. No stamp, no address, just my name in sharp block letters. Inside was the article, clipped neatly, with a sticky note in Derek's unmistakable scrawl. "So this is what you're doing?" Cute. My stomach dropped. I hadn't heard from him in months, hadn't wanted to. But he'd found me. The smugness in his words wasn't an apology. It was a taunt, a reminder they were still watching, still waiting to pull me back into their orbit. Sleep didn't come that night. I paced the creaky floor, rereading the note until it blurred. It wasn't a threat, not exactly, but it carried their signature cruelty. A jab dressed as a compliment. I didn't tell Margaret, not wanting to burden her, but fear crept in. I glanced over my shoulder walking home, stopped posting online, changed my phone number again. I knew my family too well. They didn't reach out to heal. They reached out when they felt their grip slipping. The next blow hit harder. Lena burst into the diner's break room, her phone in hand, face grim. "You need to see this," she said. A distant cousin I barely knew had posted on Facebook. Heartbroken to see Dara still pushing her family away after all they've done. Praying she finds peace. The comments were a gut punch. Strangers and distant relatives speculating I was unstable, that my parents were saints for never giving up. Each word was a lie, carefully crafted to paint me as the problem. I wanted to scream, to flood the post with the truth, how they'd abandoned me, mocked me, cut me off. But I knew their game. Speak and I'd be hysterical. Stay silent and they'd control the story. So I stayed quiet, fists clenched, heart racing, and kept building. But the fear lingered. One night after a late client meeting, I came home to find Margaret in her kitchen, staring at a shattered flower pot on the counter. The window above the sink was cracked, a spiderweb of fractures catching the light. We didn't say it out loud, but we both knew. Someone had been here, testing my boundaries, reminding me I wasn't safe. I filed a police report, but with no witnesses, no fingerprints, it went nowhere. Just a shadow of suspicion that kept me awake, jumping at every creak. Yet Pine Ridge held me up. Margaret stood by me as I gave my statement to the police, her arms crossed, her presence unwavering. Lena slept over the next night, a baseball bat by her side, her laughter easing the knot in my chest. Gavin installed a cheap camera by Margaret's porch, his quiet focus a reminder I wasn't fighting alone. These people, strangers turned family, gave me strength my blood relatives never had. So I dug in deeper. I said yes to every project, designing menus for the diner, posters for the library, even a mural for the town's annual fair. By my 6th month in Pine Ridge, I'd saved enough to move out. A tiny studio above the hardware store with a slanted ceiling, a sticky bathroom door, and a view of the stars. It was far from perfect, but it was mine. I bought a succulent from the florist downstairs and set it on the windowsill, whispering, "This is your new life, Dara." And I believed it, but my family wasn't done. A week after I moved, my phone buzzed with a new voicemail from an unknown number. Mom's voice, smooth and cold. "You're embarrassing us, Dara. People are talking. Come home before you make it worse." I deleted it, hands trembling, but the words burrowed deep, stirring old doubts. Was I the problem? Was I too sensitive? Too weak? I pushed the thoughts down, but they lingered. A quiet poison. Then came Ryan's email, forwarded through a client's address he must have dug up. "You're playing the victim, sis. It's getting old." Attached was another photo. A family dinner, all smiles, captioned, "We're fine without you." The cruelty was surgical, designed to break me. But instead, it fueled me. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Every logo I designed, every shift I worked, every night I spent sketching in my tiny apartment was a middle finger to their control. The turning point came at the diner's local author night. I'd designed the flyers, packed the room with faces I'd come to know. Nell brought candles, Lena poured coffee, and Margaret read poetry from a local writer. The crowd clapped, laughed, connected. I stood in the back, watching, and realized I'd built something real. Not just a life, but a community. For the first time, I saw myself clearly. Not the girl they left behind, but a woman who'd fought her way forward. And here's where I need you. Have you ever had to rebuild from nothing with the past clawing at your heels? What kept you going? What broke your heart? Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear how you survived. Because this fight, it's not over. My family's still out there, waiting for me to falter. But what happens next? It's not just survival. It's a reckoning, and I'm ready to write it on my terms. Stick with me for the next chapter because it's going to burn bright. My apartment was a shoebox, barely room for a bed, a desk, and a kitchenette so narrow I could touch both walls at once. But it was mine, paid for with my own sweat, no strings attached. No one could snatch it away, demand I grovel, or dangle it like a prize for enduring their cruelty. For the first time in my life, I was free. Freedom wasn't glamorous. It meant grueling shifts at the Pinewood Diner, pouring coffee and dodging grease burns, then hunching over my laptop until midnight, designing logos and tweaking websites. Sleep was a luxury, 5 hours at best, but every deposit into my savings account felt like a victory. Every new client was a brick in the wall I was building between me and the Mitchells. I didn't need them. I was proving it. Gavin's latest client, a farmer's market co-op, asked me to speak at a community event for young entrepreneurs. They called my story inspiring. I nearly laughed. Inspiring? I was just surviving. But Gavin pushed me. You don't have to bare your soul, he said, leaning back in his chair at the bookstore. Just show them you clawed your way up from nothing. So I agreed, nerves twisting like a storm. At the town hall, I stood on a rickety stage, facing 30 strangers. My voice shook as I told them I'd landed in Pine Ridge with nothing. No money, no plan, just a stubborn will to keep going. I didn't mention the gas station, the betrayal, the family who laughed as I broke. I kept it vague, but real. When I stepped down, a woman approached, her eyes wet. She ran an embroidery business, trapped in a toxic marriage, too scared to leave. You built from nothing, she whispered, gripping my hand. Maybe I can too. That night, alone in my apartment, I cried. Not from pain, but from a fierce, unfamiliar pride. I was becoming someone who mattered, not just to myself, but to others. But my family never let peace linger. It was a Friday afternoon, my diner shift winding down, when Lena burst through the kitchen door, her face tight with urgency. Dara, you need to come out front, now. I wiped my hands, heart already climbing into my throat, and stepped out from behind the counter. There, sprawled in a booth like he owned the place, was Derek, flipping through a menu with that same smug smirk I'd hated my whole life. Hey, little sis, he said, eyes glinting with malice. The diner spun. My breath caught, my hands balled into fists. What are you doing here? I managed, voice sharp as broken glass. He shrugged, casual as ever. Just passing through. Heard you were making a cute little name for yourself. Lena stepped between us, her voice low and fierce. You need to leave. Derek raised his hands, mock innocence. Relax, I'm not here for trouble. But trouble was his currency. Always had been. You don't get to show up here, I said, my pulse roaring. Not after what you did. His smirk widened, infuriating. That was over a year ago, Dara. It was a joke. You're still holding a grudge? That word, joke, snapped something deep inside me. The diner went silent, customers' eyes on us, but I didn't care. I stepped closer, voice steady despite the fire in my chest. You left me in another state, blocked my number, laughed while I begged. That's not a joke, that's cruelty. His smirk flickered just for a moment, and I seized it. You want to know what happened after you abandoned me? I built a business. I found friends who'd fight for me. I found love. Real love, not your twisted version of it. And you? You're still the same pathetic bully, clinging to mom and dad's leash. Derek stood, his face hardening. They miss you, he said, voice low. No, I shot back. They miss owning me. And if you come near me again, I'll file a restraining order so fast your head will spin. I turned and walked out, legs trembling, the weight of every eye in the diner burning into my back. I didn't stop until I reached my apartment, where I locked the door and slid to the floor, heart pounding with a mix of fear and triumph. That night, an email arrived from an unknown address. No subject, just one line. This isn't over. I stared at it, my stomach twisting, knowing it was them. Mom, Dad, Derek, Ryan, maybe all of them refusing to let me go. They weren't done trying to break me, but instead of replying, I deleted it, hands shaking but resolute. I opened my business folder and drafted 3 new client proposals, each one a defiance, a declaration that their grip was slipping. Because they were wrong, it was over. I wasn't their pawn anymore. I was Dara, and I was just getting started. But the real question is, what would you do if your past showed up uninvited, trying to drag you back? Have you ever had to stare down someone who hurt you and say, no more? Share your story in the comments. I need to know how you fought back. And stick with me, because what comes next is bigger than survival. It's a reckoning, and I'm writing it my way. Overwhelm. Though that was real. But because I'd done it without them. No family money, no grudging approval, no permission from the people who'd laughed at my ambitions. I'd built this empire from nothing, and that truth burned brighter than any spotlight. But the past, as always, refused to stay buried. It slithered back, dressed in cream-colored embossed paper, a wedding invitation from my cousin Bethany. Someone, probably my aunt, thought including me was a kind gesture. I stared at the elegant envelope, then scrawled, "Not attending" on the RSVP card in bold marker, my hand steady but my heart racing. Curiosity, that old traitor, nudged me to check social media. That's when I saw Derek. Not the smug brother who'd tormented me, but a tired man working at a small-town auto dealership. Not a manager, just a salesman, and a struggling one at that. His posts were desperate pleas for customers. Grainy videos of used trucks met with silence. He looked drained, diminished, a shadow of the bully who'd once loomed so large. Meanwhile, I was booking keynote speeches at national women's conferences, my name synonymous with resilience. He peddled tires. I built dreams. You'd think I'd feel smug, revel in his fall. But I didn't. I felt free. Lighter than ever because I didn't need his failure to validate my rise. My success was justice enough. Then came the email that proved some people never change. It was from Mom, short and sharp, no warmth, just demand. "Your father is in the hospital. He asked for you. Don't make this about the past." No apology, no kindness, just the same old expectation that I'd bend, that I'd come running. I stared at the screen, my chest tight, memories of their cruelty flooding back. The gas station, the laughter, the years of cutting me down. My therapist's words echoed, "Not everyone deserves your closure. Some only deserve your absence." So I clicked archive, my fingers steady, and gave them nothing. Their control over me was dead, buried beneath the life I'd built. I poured my energy into Hazel and Company, launching a mentorship program for young women chasing creative dreams. I funded scholarships for first-generation college students, giving forgotten daughters the tools to rise. Every project felt like a defiance, a shout into the void that I was enough. At a speaking event in Denver, a girl no older than 20 approached me, her voice trembling. "My mom said I was stupid for wanting to be a designer," she said. "But I saw your story on YouTube. Now I'm in school, because if you could do it after what they did to you, I can too." Her words hit me harder than any award or paycheck. I hugged her, tears stinging, and in that moment, I knew I'd won. Not over my family, but over the broken girl they'd left at that gas station. She'd risen from ashes, built an empire, and no one could take it away. But life's never that tidy, is it? Have you ever reached a peak only to feel the past creeping back, trying to steal your light? How did you keep shining? Share your story in the comments. I want to know what kept you fighting, because my journey's not done. The Mitchells may think they can still reach me, but what's coming next is bigger than their shadows. It's a legacy, and I'm writing it my way. Stay with me for the next chapter, because this fire is only burning brighter. The voicemail landed like a grenade in my quiet life. 4 years of silence, 4 years of building Hazel & Co. into a thriving design studio, 4 years of proving I didn't need them. And then Mom's voice crackled through my phone. "Dara, it's your mother. Your father's out of the hospital now. We'd like to talk." No warmth, no regret, just a cold summons dressed up as a request. My finger hovered over delete, heart racing, but curiosity sank its claws in. I listened again, searching for something human, something real. There was nothing. I deleted it, but the echo lingered, stirring a restless ache. Days later, an email arrived, then a letter, handwritten and desperate, pleading for me to attend a family reunion. They wanted me back in their world. After everything, after leaving me stranded, mocking my pain, cutting me off, they had the audacity to ask me to return. Let me ask you, if the people who broke you, who laughed as you bled, suddenly wanted you back, would you go? Would you step into a room full of ghosts who'd haunted you for years? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I need to know how you'd face that choice. For me, it wasn't easy. I confided in Gavin, Lena, my therapist, all echoing the same truth. I owed them nothing. They were right. but a small, bruised part of me. The child who'd once begged for their love craved something. Not their forgiveness, not their embrace, but closure. I wanted to stand before them, not as the girl they discarded, but as the woman I'd become. So I said yes. Not for them. For me. To show them what they'd thrown away. Stepping off the plane in Illinois felt like walking into a storm. The air was thick, heavy with memories I'd buried. Familiar streets stirred a rage I hadn't expected, each corner whispering of old wounds. The reunion was at my aunt's house, the same backyard where we'd played as kids, the same patio where Mom once called me a burden for daring to dream of an art program. I arrived late, on purpose, my heels clicking against the pavement like a war drum. Heads turned, whispers rippled. Some cousins offered fake smiles as if the past had never happened. Then I saw them, Mom and Dad, standing by the grill, frozen when their eyes met mine. Mom's smile cracked, her gaze tracing the woman I'd become, confident, polished, a force they couldn't control. Not the obedient daughter they'd tried to shape, not the broken girl they'd left at a Wyoming gas station. She opened her arms, expecting an embrace. I stepped back, voice steady. "Hi, Mom." Her arms dropped, her face a flicker of shock. Dad cleared his throat, his voice gruff. "Good to see you, Dara." I tilted my head, unflinching. "Is it?" Tension crackled, drawing eyes from across the yard. Mom gestured to a table laden with catered food, her voice overly bright. "Let's sit. Eat. We can talk." For 30 minutes, I sat through their surreal charade. They smiled, laughed, asked about Hazel and company like proud parents, as if they hadn't mocked my dreams, hadn't abandoned me to teach me a lesson. I answered coolly, watching their performance unravel. Then Mom leaned in, her voice dropping to a practiced whisper. "Your father's not doing well financially. The medical bills?" My heart pounded, not with sympathy, but with clarity. There it was, the truth behind their sudden outreach. They didn't want me. They wanted my success, my money, the empire I'd built from their ashes. I leaned back, folding my arms, my voice low but sharp. "You think I owe you? After you left me with nothing? Laughed while I begged? You don't get to touch what I've built." Mom's face paled. Dad's jaw tightened, but I wasn't done. "I came here to close a door, not open one. You don't get to rewrite the past because you're desperate now." The table went silent, cousins and aunts pretending not to listen, but I felt their stares. I stood, my chair scraping the patio, and walked away, head high, their stunned faces fading behind me. That night, back in my hotel, an email from Ryan waited. "You're selfish, Dara. Dad's sick and you're playing the victim again." Selfish? I laughed, a bitter, freeing sound. Selfish was surviving their cruelty, building a life despite their sabotage. I deleted the email, but the adrenaline lingered, fueling my resolve. Hazel and Coors wasn't just a business. It was my defiance. My proof that I was more than their punchline. I poured myself into new projects. A national campaign for a women's shelter, a mentorship program for young artists, a scholarship fund in my name. Each step was a brick in a fortress they'd never breach. At a conference in Seattle, a teenage girl approached me, clutching a sketchbook. "I read about you," she said, eyes shining. "My family says I'll never make it as an artist, but you did, so I'm trying." Her words were a mirror, reflecting the girl I'd been and the woman I'd become. I hugged her, whispering, "Keep going. You're enough." In that moment, I wasn't just winning. I was rewriting the narrative for every forgotten daughter. But the Mitchells aren't done. They never are. What happens when they push harder? When their desperation turns dangerous? Have you ever faced a past that refused to let you go? How did you stand your ground? Share your story in the comments. I need your fire to keep mine burning. Stay with me, because this isn't the end. It's the start of something unstoppable, and I'm ready to light it up. Silence was my first weapon. I let it hang heavy, suffocating, forcing my parents to squirm under its weight. They expected the old Dara, the girl who'd shrink under their guilt trips, who'd beg for scraps of approval. But that girl was gone, forged into someone new by years of pain and triumph. I leaned forward, my voice low, deliberate. Do you remember Wyoming? Mom's eyes flickered, uncertain. Dad's face went slack, a stranger to accountability. Wyoming? Mom echoed, as if the word held no meaning. The gas station, I said, each syllable a blade. The prank. Their silence was louder than any excuse, a confession of their cruelty. You left me, I pressed, my voice steady but searing. Stranded in a state I didn't know, with nothing but a half-dead phone and your laughter. You called it a joke. Now you sit here asking for money, acting like we're family? Years of suppressed rage crystallized into ice, cutting through their facade. I was a kid. You drove away, grinning. You didn't call, didn't come back, didn't even report me missing. What kind of parents do that? Mom stared at her hands. Dad cleared his throat, his bravado crumbling. It was a mistake, he mumbled. I leaned closer, eyes locked on his. Number it was a choice. The dam inside me burst, flooding the backyard with truth. I built a life, I said, voice rising, raw with power. Every cent, every client, every dream. I earned it without you. While you coddled Derek, your golden boy, who's selling used trucks and begging for likes on Facebook. Derek, lurking by the drinks table, flushed crimson, his fists clenching. You don't have to be such a... He started, but I cut him off, standing tall, unafraid. Say it, I challenged, my voice a whip. Say I'm the joke, that you're still their favorite, that they love you more. Go on. He froze, his silence a surrender, the crowd's eyes pinning him in place. I turned to the hushed backyard, aunts, uncles, cousins caught in the storm of my truth. They thought I'd be nothing, I said, my voice ringing clear. They thought abandoning me would break me, but it didn't. It built me. I faced my parents again, their faces pale, stripped of their masks. You want help? Here's my advice. Start over. Apologize to each other, get jobs, sell the boat, downsize. But don't come to me for money, don't come for forgiveness. You burned that bridge when you left me on a highway. My words landed like thunder, shaking the air. I grabbed my purse, turned to the stunned guests, and said, "Thank you for the food." Then I walked out, head high, their silence trailing me like a shadow. I didn't look back, but the fallout wasn't over. That night, my phone lit up with messages. Ryan's venomous text. You humiliated them. Hope you're happy. An email from Mom, dripping with manipulation. We're your family, Dara. You'll regret this. Even distant relatives chimed in, posting on social media about my cruel outburst, painting me as the villain. Each word was a dagger, but I didn't flinch. I'd spent years dodging their lies, building Hazel and Company into a fortress of purpose. Their attacks only sharpened my resolve. I launched a new initiative the next week. A free design workshop for survivors of toxic families, teaching them to reclaim their stories through art. Every participant was a mirror, reflecting my own fight, my own victory. At the workshop's opening, a woman in her 30s shared her story, her voice breaking. My parents said I'd fail without them. You showed me I don't need their permission to live. Her words were my armor, proof that my fight wasn't just for me, but for every soul they'd tried to crush. I stood taller, knowing I'd turned their betrayal into a legacy. But the Mitchells won't stop. Their desperation is growing, and I sense a storm brewing. Will they lash out harder, or will they finally face their own reckoning? Now I need you. Have you ever faced the people who broke you and walked away stronger? What did it cost you? What did you gain? Pour your heart out in the comments. I want to feel your fire. And stay with me because this story isn't over. The next chapter is coming and it's going to shake the ground. Let's burn bright together. 3 years have passed since that reunion, and I haven't spoken to my parents since. Not out of anger, not anymore. I'm simply done. Done waiting for apologies that will never come. Done proving my worth to people blind to it. Done carrying their choices like a chain around my heart. I've let go. Not for them, but for me. Because I deserve a life unburdened by their shadows. That life is here, and it's beautiful. Hazel and Company thrives, a sanctuary for creatives building dreams from scratch. My friends, Gavin, Lena, Margaret, are my chosen family. Their love fiercer than blood ever was. I travel, sketching sunsets in cities I once only dreamed of. I paint again. My canvas is alive with colors I'd forgotten I could feel. Most of all, I mentor young women carrying wounds like mine, women who've been told they're too much or not enough. I look them in the eyes and say, "You're not crazy. You deserved better." Watching them rise, claiming their own stories, heals parts of me I thought were lost forever. If you're reading this, if you're watching my story unfold, let me say it to you too. You deserved better. If you've ever been the punchline in your family, if you've been abandoned and told to toughen up, if you felt like you're screaming into a void, you are not alone. You don't have to answer their calls just because they reach out. You don't have to forgive just because it's expected. You don't owe anyone your peace. Healing sometimes means walking away, building a life so bright their shadows can't touch it. And that's okay. It's more than okay. It's freedom. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. It's been heavy, raw, but if my story made you feel seen, heard, or understood, even for a moment, that's everything to me. I want to hear from you now. Have you ever had to walk away from family to find yourself? What did it take to rebuild? Drop your story in the comments below. Your truth matters, and I'm here to listen. If stories like mine help you feel less alone, please give this a like. Subscribe to Hidden Family Revenge Stories, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a new tale. We're a community that tells the stories they tried to bury. And the truth? It's the fiercest revenge of all. Stay with us, because there's more to come, and together, we'll keep shining. Pine Ridge wasn't much to look at. A sleepy Wyoming town with one diner, a bookstore, and a hardware store that doubled as a gossip hub. For Lena Martinez, it was home, a fragile refuge where she raised her 8-year-old daughter, Mia, in a cramped apartment above the laundromat. Life was a grind. Endless shifts at the Pinewood Diner, scrubbing plates, dodging spills, smiling through exhaustion while worrying about Mia's school fees. Beneath the routine, scars lingered, invisible but heavy, from a past Lena kept locked away. She was 32, a single mom who'd learned to survive, but surviving wasn't living. Not until Dara walked into the diner, broken yet unyielding, a mirror to Lena's own buried pain. Lena saw herself in Dara's eyes that first day, a stranger carrying wounds too familiar. Dara's story, abandoned by her family at a gas station, laughed at as she begged, hit Lena like a punch. It wasn't just sympathy, it was recognition. Lena had her own ghosts, a marriage to Jake that left her bruised in body and soul. She'd fled him years ago, Mia barely a toddler, but the fear never left. Dara's resilience, her refusal to stay broken, lit something in Lena. Their friendship wasn't loud or showy. It was quiet moments, shared coffee breaks, late-night talks at the diner's counter. Dara became Lena's anchor, proof that you could rebuild from nothing. And Lena? She vowed to be Dara's shield, to protect the spark she saw in her friend. Have you ever met someone who made you want to be braver, better? Someone who felt like home when you'd forgotten what that meant? Tell me in the comments, because I'm listening. Lena's past wasn't a story she told often. Jake had been charming at first. All easy smiles and promises. But charm turned to control, then fists, then nights where Lena curled around Mia, praying he'd pass out before he found them. She left him when Mia was 2, running to Pine Ridge with nothing but a duffel bag and a restraining order that felt like paper against his rage. She'd reached out to her family once, begging for help. Her mother's response still burned. "You're too weak to keep a man in line." Her brothers agreed, calling her dramatic, saying she should have stayed. Their rejection cut deeper than Jake's blows, teaching Lena that blood didn't mean loyalty. She built walls, trusting no one, until Dara. Sharing her story with Dara wasn't planned. It spilled out one night at the bookstore, pages and poems, while they sorted inventory under Margaret's soft lamplight. Dara listened. No judgment, just quiet understanding. "They didn't deserve you," Dara said, echoing the words Lena had once given her. That moment cracked Lena's armor, letting hope seep through. But hope was fragile. A letter arrived from Lena's mother, slipped under her apartment door. No stamp, just her name in sharp cursive. "Come home, Lena. Let's fix this." Fix what? The years of silence? The blame they'd heaped on her? Lena tore the letter to pieces, heart pounding, but the words lingered, stirring old doubts. Was she weak for running? Was she failing Mia by staying in Pine Ridge? The past was clawing back, and Lena wasn't sure she was strong enough to fight it. Have you ever had family try to pull you back into their narrative, acting like the pain they caused was your fault? Drop your story below, because you're not alone. Lena threw herself into Dara's world to drown the noise. When Dara flew to Illinois for her family's reunion, Lena stayed behind, running Hazel and Company's events with fierce precision. She booked venues, managed clients, even learned basic design from Dara's tutorials, rediscovering a love for art she'd buried since Jake mocked her sketches. Hazel and Company wasn't just a job. It was a lifeline, a place where Lena could be more than the single mom at the diner. She painted a mural for the bookstore's local author night, swirls of color that drew gasps from the crowd. Dara's pride, her quiet, "You're incredible," fueled Lena to keep going. For the first time, she saw a future beyond survival, but the past doesn't let go easily. Jake found her. A local paper had mentioned Hazel and Company, Dara's success, and Lena's name slipped in as an event manager. That was enough. One afternoon, Lena was wiping down tables when the diner's bell chimed. She looked up, and there he was, Jake, leaning against the counter, smirking like he'd never left. "Hey, Lena, heard you're doing big things. Where's my daughter?" Her stomach dropped, her hands shaking as she gripped the rag. He wanted Mia, wanted to fix our family. His voice smooth but laced with threat. Customers stared, the air thick with tension. Lena's voice trembled but held firm. "Get out. You don't belong here." Jake laughed, low and cruel. "This isn't over, babe." He left, but his shadow stayed, a promise of chaos. Lena didn't tell Mia. Didn't want to scare her, but fear gnawed at her. She confided in Dara, who listened with that fierce calm Lena loved. "He doesn't own you anymore," Dara said. "You're not that woman he tried to break." Inspired by Dara's defiance, Lena filed a police report, updated her restraining order, and kept working, refusing to let Jake steal her light. But he pushed harder. A legal letter arrived, Jake demanding custody of Mia, claiming Lena was an unfit mother living in a dead-end town. The words were a gut punch, dragging Lena back to the nights she'd doubted herself. She broke down in Dara's apartment, sobbing. What if I lose her? Dara knelt beside her, voice steady. "You won't. We're fighting this together." Has anyone ever stood by you when your world felt like it was collapsing? Share their impact in the comments, because those people are the real heroes. Dara rallied the troops. Gavin found a pro bono lawyer through his network. Margaret offered to watch Mia during court prep. Hazel and Coeter's community stepped up, donating to legal fees, proving Pine Ridge was more than a town. It was family. Lena threw herself into a Hazel and Company workshop, Art for Survivors, where she'd agreed to speak. Standing before a crowd, her voice shook as she told her story. The abuse, the escape, the rebuilding. "I thought I was weak," she said, tears falling. "But surviving him, raising my daughter, finding my art again, that's strength." The room erupted in applause, strangers hugging her, sharing their own stories. For the first time, Lena felt her truth wasn't a burden but a torch. Then Jake crashed the workshop. He stormed in, shouting, "She's lying! She's keeping my kid from me." The crowd froze, Lena's heart racing as his voice dragged her back to those dark years. But Dara stepped forward, unflinching. "You don't get to rewrite her story," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. Dara turned to the crowd, sharing her own truth, how her family's abandonment nearly broke her. "Lena's not lying. She's surviving, and we're here for her." The crowd surged with support, their voices drowning Jake's lies. Humiliated, he fled, his power shattered. Days later, Lena's lawyer called. Jake had withdrawn his custody claim, no evidence to stand on. Lena collapsed, tears of relief soaking Mia's hair as she hugged her tight. "Have you ever faced a bully from your past and won? Tell me how you did it in the comments, because your victory fuels us all." Lena's healing didn't end there. She picked up her paintbrush again, creating vibrant canvases that told her story, pain and triumph woven into every stroke. Pages and Poems hosted her first exhibit, Fire Within, where Pine Ridge turned out to celebrate. Mia stood beside her, beaming, as Lena unveiled a painting of two women, arms linked, flames rising behind them. Her and Dara unbreakable. Lena taught Mia to paint, passing on lessons of resilience, whispering, "You're stronger than you know." Together with Dara, Lena launched Art for Survivors, a national campaign helping abuse survivors reclaim their voices through creativity. It went viral, stories pouring in from across the country, proof that healing could spark change. Lena stood taller now, her scars no longer chains but badges. She looked at Mia, at Dara, at the life she'd built and knew she'd won, not just against Jake, but against the voices that called her weak. Her story wasn't over, and neither is yours. Have you found strength in your scars? Painted your pain into something beautiful? Share your journey in the comments because your fire lights the way for others. If Lena's story moved you, smash that like button. Subscribe to Hidden Family Revenge Stories and hit the bell so you never miss a tale of triumph. We're here for the stories they tried to silence, and together we're unstoppable. Keep burning bright because the next story's coming and it's gonna set the world on fire.